This is John McCormick, and welcome back to another personal development video. I hope this finds you lit up, turned on, and inspired, creating the business of your dreams, the life of your dreams, whatever it is you're up to. I'm here today to talk to you about how to overcome procrastination. Now, if you're anything like me, and a whole bunch of other people, procrastination happens in your life. And it usually happens when you're confronted with doing things you don't want to do. If you love doing it, it's pretty easy to get into action. But the tougher the situations, the more we tend to want to procrastinate. So I want to give you a couple of tips around how to overcome procrastination so that you can be in action creating your wildest dreams, whatever they may be. So the first thing I want to address here is the nature of life, the nature of reality, the way things are in this universe. And one of those principles that I've noticed over my short little period of time here on the big blue planet is that life tends to drift. It tends to just roll over like a slow river or something. It just continually kind of moves on and drifts along, and that we are all drifting along with it. You can sometimes notice this when you think that you have a lot of time to get busy with what it is you're trying to accomplish in life. It's kind of like, well, we can always get to that later. We've got plenty of time for that later. I'll get to that after I finish doing this. And, there's this sense that it's okay because we're going to live forever. And this is particularly true when you're younger. And, as you get older, you hopefully get in touch with the reality that you're running out of time. But even that takes some work. Unless you get sick or something happens and you're suddenly woken up to your mortality, we tend to just drift along like it's never going to end. And this is the first thing I want to point out about procrastination, because if we've got all the time in the world, then there's no rush. We can get to it later. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Life is limited. The time that you have here is limited. And if you're not in touch with this and you're caught up in that drift, that river, kind of floating down that river, you may suddenly find yourself at the end of your life having not accomplished the things that you really wanted to accomplish. And then, that can lead to regret and all the rest of those negative emotions that will come with a life kind of unfulfilled. And I don't want to end up there. And hopefully this can help you guys kind of wake up to this drift of life. And I mean, if you're already there, fantastic. If you're on the ball and you're rocking and you're making use of every minute of every day, then you're ahead of most of us. So I want to point to this kind of Swansea down the river drift of life that the universe is involved in. And one of the things that I think you and me can bring to this kind of dream state that we find ourselves in It is like a dream, you know. In a way, it feels that we are in this kind of a dream. And I want to wake us up a little bit from the dream and create a sense of urgency that every second counts, that we have a small, tiny amount of time on this planet to get done whatever we're going to get done, and it will be over in a flash. And that's the sense that I'm beginning to perceive for myself. I'm 63 years old as of this recording, and I am now more in touch with the finite bit of time that I have, however long that may be. I wish I had this when I was 20, but there you go. That's life. So I want to bring this sense of urgency to us so that we can get in action and utilize every minute of every day going after whatever it is you want to accomplish in life. Whatever that dream is you have, you better get busy with it. Because if you don't, you may awaken from the dream many years from now to realize it's too late. And so this requires a kind of level of awareness. This conversation requires a level of awareness that has the power to wake us up to this small little bit of time. So how can we go about being in action as much as we need to be and aware that the clock is ticking? How can we be awake to this fact so we can utilize, and really it requires swimming upriver to swim against the tide of the drift of life. And the first thing we need to do is be aware that that is the way it is. We must awaken from the dream and begin to swim upriver so that we can wake up and get busy creating what we want before we realize it's too late. So the first thing to do is to begin to be aware of this, the nature of it. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just the way it is. But awareness can really move us into a kind of perception of taking massive action in the face of the drift of life. So first it's being aware. And then to begin, the second thing is to begin to notice that we have a story about our life and how much time we have and how things really are all going to turn out. And we can always get to that later. We have a kind of lackadaisious kind of story that we tell ourselves about that. And we need to be aware of this story. We need to identify the story we have inside this drift and to begin to notice that it's not serving us. And that too comes with being aware. What is the story you tell yourself about procrastination and how much time you have and how you will get to it later? What is that story you tell yourself? And to begin to notice that. So we've got awareness, and then we've got the story that we tell ourselves. And then the third thing is really our emotional state, because as we think, we feel. So you'll have a story and you might be thinking about something, and then you'll have a feeling about that. And we want to be aware of how we feel as well, because emotions can determine our behavior, and we don't want to get driven out of our emotion. So we want to be aware of the story, and we want to be aware of our emotions around being in this drift, in this dream kind of state that we find ourselves in a lot of the time. So those are the three things I want to point to. First is awareness, second is the story, And third is notice how you feel about these things. And once you can begin to observe the way you're functioning, you can step outside of that matrix and put yourself into action to utilize every second of every day. It is urgent that you go after what it is you want in life immediately. And I want to create this sense of urgency for you. And for me, I need to remind myself of this. I need to get up earlier. I need to work harder. I need to go to bed later if I'm going to end up where I want to be by the time this whole thing is over. So I hope this is of some use and it brings a certain awareness to you that motivates you like an empowerment to be able to distinguish the nature of life and to act in the face of that is very powerful. A very powerful thing indeed. So I hope that's of some use. If you like what we're putting out, please subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like. We'll always get back to you. If you have any other insights around this conversation, we would love to hear what you have to say if it supports people moving themselves forward towards their dreams. So thanks very much, and I'll see you on the next one.